Over your head.
If he drops it, shoot it. Come on, boy. Don't look at me.
Movie opens with a young boy named Louis Zamperini, a mischievous kid who was always getting into trouble. He'd steal things and drink alcohol and pick up bad habits that made everyone around him frustrated. His father would often punish him and even beat him, hoping he'd change. But Louis wasn't the kind of kid who'd listen. The only person who truly believed in him was his older brother, Pete. One day, after Louis gets chased for one of his pranks, he runs as fast as he can to escape. And Pete, who was out practicing his running, sees how fast his little brother can actually move. Later, Pete tells Louis he should try becoming a runner and practice with him. Louis hesitates, saying he doesn't believe in himself, that he's not like Pete or anyone else. But Pete looks at him and says,
"If you could take it, you can make it. Or you keep going the way you're going and you end up as a bum in the streets."
So motivated by his brother's faith, Louis starts training. Soon, there's a race at school, and Louis decides to take part. At first, he's far behind everyone, but when Pete cheers him on, something changes. Louis starts running faster with everything he's got and finishes strong. From that day, he keeps training, and Pete following beside him on a bicycle, pushing him harder every day. As time passes, Louis grows up and becomes a professional runner. He wins competitions, and in one race, he sets a new record, running a mile in just 4 minutes. A record no one in America had ever broken. His incredible speed earns him a spot in the Olympics. Before leaving for Olympics, Louis asks Pete to come with him, but Pete sarcastically says, "Why should I? You're not going to win anyway." Louis smiles and says, "I know, but in the next Olympics, I'll show them all." As Louis boards the train, Pete shouts after him, "A moment of pain is worth a lifetime of glory," meaning that in life, there are moments when people feel broken and want to give up. But if they push through that pain, their whole life can change. Louis then leaves for the 1936 Olympics, competing in the 5,000-meter race. He struggles through most of it, staying far behind, but in the final lap, he sprints with everything he has, finishing the last round faster than anyone ever had before, and also setting a world record. Now his dream was to compete again in the next Olympics, which was supposed to be held in Tokyo in 1940. But that dream never came true, because by then, World War II had begun, and the 1940 Olympics were canceled. Then story jumps ahead to 1943. In the middle of World War II, America is fighting to Japan, and Louis Zamperini is now serving as a bombardier in US Air Force. He's part of a crew that flies over enemy bases, dropping bombs and destroying targets. One day, during a dangerous mission, their plane gets badly damaged, and several crew members are injured. They attempt to land, but the plane is in terrible shape. The pilot struggles to control it. One of the tires bursts, yet somehow, he manages to bring it down safely, and miraculously, no one dies. Later, Louis continues his running practice, with his friend following behind him in a jeep. Suddenly, some fellow soldiers arrive and tell them they have a new mission. But this time, it isn't a bombing run. They're being sent out to search for missing men who are believed to be stranded somewhere in the ocean. The team takes off to rescue them, but their own plane is already in poor condition. That's why midway through the mission, technical problems strike and their aircraft crashes straight into the ocean. Almost everyone dies in the crash, and only 3 men survive, including Louis. They manage to climb into 2 small lifeboats, with only a few chocolate bars and a little water. Louis takes charge and says, "We'll eat 1 piece of chocolate in the morning and 1 in the evening, and no one drinks more than 2 sips of water a day." He knows they have no idea when or if anyone will find them, because all around them stretches nothing but endless ocean. That night, they fall asleep, and when morning comes, they spot a plane overhead. They fire signal flares desperately, but the plane never sees them and flies away, and the men feel crushed. Then Louis discovers the worst. Their chocolate is gone, because Mac, one of the survivors, had eaten it all during the night. Furious, Louis scolds him.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter! It doesn't matter!
Days go by. Hunger and thirst become unbearable. They can't drink the seawater. It's too salty and would make them sick. Then one day, a bird lands on their raft. Louis carefully reaches out and grabs it. Then they eat it, but their weak stomachs can't handle it, and all of them start vomiting. Later, one of the men suggests they can try catching fish. They still have bait, so they set it up and start fishing, finally managing to get some food. Days pass like this. One night, as they're sleeping, a violent storm hits the ocean. Waves crash over them, lightning flashes, and death feels closer than ever. In that terrifying moment, Louis prays, "God, if you save me, I'll dedicate my whole life to you." Somehow, against all odds, they survive the storm. Day after day, they managed to catch fish to survive. But the biggest problem was still water. They had nothing to drink. But just as hope returned, danger struck again and a plane appeared overhead. They fired signals, thinking rescue had finally come. But to their horror, it was a Japanese plane. So then the pilot opened fire, bullets tearing through the air around them. Then the men dove into the ocean, hiding under the rafts as gunfire ripped through the water. When the attack ended, one of their rafts was full of bullet holes and sinking fast. They managed to patch one raft, but the other was completely destroyed. Now, all three had to fit into a single small raft, which was nearly impossible. Days turned into weeks. They had been adrift for over 35 days. The exhaustion, hunger, and heat were unbearable. Mac, unable to handle the starvation and mental strain, finally gave up and died. Only Louis and Phil were left. Both were so weak they could barely speak or stand. By now, they had been stranded for 47 days. Then one morning, a Japanese ship spotted them. The soldiers pulled them out of the water and took them as prisoners. Louis and his friend were transported to a camp deep in the jungle. There, the Japanese guards recognized Louis from an old photo. They knew he was the Olympic runner. After some interrogation, the two men were sent to another camp filled with other captured soldiers. This new camp was run by a cruel and merciless officer named Mutsuhiro Watanabe. On their first day, Mutsuhiro addressed the prisoners coldly saying, "You are enemies of Japan, and you will be treated as such." While he was speaking, Louis accidentally looked at him. Mutsuhiro noticed and slowly walked up to him. He ordered, "Look at me." Louis hesitated, but obeyed. Mutsuhiro stared into his eyes, then suddenly struck him hard with a stick. He ordered again, "Look at me," hitting him once more. After beating Louis several times, he leaned close and whispered, "Never look me in the eyes again." That night, the prisoners sleep in a place so terrible that no animal would live there. But out of sheer necessity, they all try to rest. The next morning, Mutsuhiro tells the group that one of them is an Olympic runner and asks who it is. Louis raises his hand, so Mutsuhiro forces him to race a man. But Louis is exhausted and badly wounded and collapses. Then Mutsuhiro comes over and beats him, declaring he is nothing and unworthy of winning, as if wiping out his hatred by hurting Louis. Mutsuhiro singles Louis out for cruel treatment, likely because he recognizes he is no ordinary soldier and won't give up easily. Few days later, some prisoners try to escape the camp but fail. And when Mutsuhiro learns of it, they're treated like animals and beaten severely. One day, Louis and Phil are working when they look up and talk about American planes getting closer and possibly attacking at any moment. Mutsuhiro overhears and wakes them in the middle of the night, then beats them with a belt until they're raw. A few days later, Japanese radio operators bring a message. The American soldiers say Louis's family has been told Louis is dead, and if Louis wants to tell them he's alive, this is his chance. So Louis goes to the radio, and speaking for the first time in 2 years, lies to comfort his family, telling them not to worry, that he's fine and in a training camp, and also tell his father about hunting together when he returns, and telling his mother he misses her cooking, ending by saying, "Merry Christmas," and breaking into tears, which leaves his family devastated. Afterward, the Japanese give him a paper to sign and read on the radio that contains terrible things about America. But Louis refuses, saying he cannot betray his country. An officer tempts him with promises of an easier life if he signs, but Louis still refuses, so they send him back to the camp, where Mutsuhiro greets him and says he knew from day one Louis was as strong as him and could have been friends. But that will never happen, because Louis is American, and Mutsuhiro hates Americans. After that, Mutsuhiro lines up all the American prisoners and orders each of them to step forward and punch Louis in the face. The men refuse, unwilling to hurt their fellow soldier. But then Mutsuhiro brings out Phil, beaten, bloodied, barely able to stand. And then Mutsuhiro coldly says, "If you don't hit Louis, I'll beat Phil to death." Terrified for his friend, Louis shouts, "Do it! Hit me!" One by one, every prisoner steps forward and punches him. Blow after blow, Louis stands there, taking the pain, until his face is swollen and he can barely stay conscious, but he saves Phil's life. Days pass, and snow begins to fall over the camp. The prisoners try to lift their spirits by putting on a small comedy show, laughing just to forget their pain for a while. During the show, Mutsuhiro quietly sits beside Louis and says, "I've been promoted to another camp." Hearing this, Louis feels a secret sense of relief. Finally, the man who tormented him is leaving. But a few days later, bombs hit the camp and explosions shake the ground. Some prisoners and guards are killed, and the camp burns down, no longer fit to live in. The next morning, the survivors are transferred to another camp. When they arrive, they're ordered to line up, and to their horror, the new camp commander walks in. It's Mutsuhiro Watanabe. Louis freezes in shock and his legs almost giving out, but his friends hold him up. He knows exactly what this means. Mutsuhiro won't let him live in peace again. This new camp is even worse than the last. The prisoners there are weak, starving, and injured, yet they're still forced to work in brutal conditions. Their job is to unload heavy coal from ships in the freezing cold. One day, while Louis and his men are working, one prisoner collapses from exhaustion and falls from a height, and dying instantly. Everyone watches in horror. A few days later, as Louis works, a Japanese guard shoves him hard and he falls, injuring himself badly. But even then, Louis doesn't give up. He pulls himself back to his feet and keeps working. One day, while working, Louis tries to take a short rest, but a Japanese guard spots him. The soldier drags Louis to Mutsuhiro and says he's not working. Mutsuhiro looks at Louis and orders him to lift a heavy wooden beam lying nearby. A huge one, far too heavy for a man in his condition. But Louis, gathering every last ounce of strength, manages to lift it. Then Mutsuhiro tells to another guard, "Shoot him if he drop." Time passes slowly. The beam starts to tremble in Louis's hands, sinking lower. The entire camp falls silent. Everyone stops working and stares at him. Even the guards are frozen. Just then, Louis remembers his brother's words, "No matter what happens, never lose faith in yourself." With a roar of defiance, Louis raises the beam high above his head again, his eyes locked on Mutsuhiro's. Mutsuhiro can't take the humiliation. He screams at Louis to stop staring at him, but Louis doesn't look away. Enraged, Mutsuhiro runs up and begins beating him brutally, again and again. In flashes, he sees his training days, his family, his brother, everything that gave him strength. Finally, when Mutsuhiro realizes the beating isn't breaking Louis, he starts punching him, until he himself collapses from exhaustion. Louis lies there, too weak to move, and spends the entire night on the ground until morning. Some days later, all the prisoners are assembled. A Japanese officer announces that for the glory of their new future, they'll be allowed to bathe in the river. But everyone suspects it's a trap, that they're about to be executed. Still, they step into the river. Then, suddenly, a plane appears in the sky. As it gets closer, they realize it's American. Cheers erupt because the war is over and they're free. The plane drops supplies, and the prisoners celebrate with tears in their eyes. But Louis still can't stop wondering, why did Mutsuhiro hate him so much? Before leaving, he goes to Mutsuhiro's office, but it's empty. Mutsuhiro has vanished. Then Louis sits down, finds a photograph from Mutsuhiro's childhood, and stares at it quietly. Finally, Louis and the other soldiers return home to America. The moment he arrives, Louis kneels down and kisses the ground. The story ends there. But it's a true one. The film shows Louis Zamperini's real photos at the end, revealing that he married in 1947 and had 2 children. His friend Phil, who survived with him, also married. Mutsuhiro Watanabe was disappeared after the war and lived in hiding for years. In the end, Louis fulfilled his dream, running once again in the Olympics, in Japan, at the age of 80.